He would stomp her in the head if she was down. There was frequent violence. She would have black eyes. She would have bruises.
That testimony alone was enough to shake the courtroom, but Cassie wasn't done. Apparently, she stepped back into court with something even darker. New footage that allegedly shows Diddy at his absolute worst. And when it played, word is, Diddy had a full-on panic attack.
I was watching him very closely. I saw like his hand shaking a bit.
In this video, we're breaking down the new footage, Cassie's bombshell testimony, and why this courtroom moment might just mark the beginning of the end for the bad boy empire. Let's get into it. The footage that changed everything. This security footage con-rhymed what Cassie been saying all along, that back in 2016, Diddy wasn't just wilding out, he was straight bugging. The video, all 3 minutes and 4 seconds of it, caught Diddy putting hands on Cassie, dragging her through that hotel hallway like she wasn't even human. The surveillance video shows him chasing after her, grabbing her by the neck, throwing her to the ground, and then, I swear I'm not capping, kicking her while she down. That's lower than a snake's belly button in a drainage ditch. No kizzy. After the footage leaked, Diddy tried to do damage control real quick. When you caught in 4K Ultra HD, what else you gonna do but apologize, you feel me? But peep this weak excuse.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you gotta do that. I was up. I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. Disgusted.
Oh, now you disgusted, big bruh? Now you taking full responsibility? That's like crashing your mama's car and only Oren to pay for the windshield wipers when she pull up the dash cam footage. This man really said I hit rock bottom like the OLR made him do it. Nah, homie, you were the rock bottom for Cassie. Let's get into what actually went down in that footage, because the details hit dim. According to Cassie's lawsuit, Diddy was extremely intoxicated and punched her in the face, giving her a black eye. When she tried to bounce from the room, which any person with sense would do, that's when he followed her into the hallway, screaming like a madman. In the video, we see him grab her, slam her to the ground, kick her twice on my mama twice, and then try to drag her back to the room like some caveman type beat. Cassie managed to grab a hotel phone, probably trying to call for help, but Diddy kept intimidating her, even throwing objects at her. Like, what kind of power trip? This incident matches exactly what Cassie detailed in her lawsuit from November 2023, which was settled for $20 million just one day after Lynn. And y'all, that quick settlement tells you everything you need to know. That ain't an innocent. Man gutting to clear his name, that's somebody trying to make a problem disappear before it get worse. Diddy's legal team tried to flip it, saying the settlement was in no way an admission of wrongdoing. Please! That's like getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar and saying you was just checking if the cookies were stale. We all know what's really good. Cassie's lawyer kept it a buck, saying the video only further con-armed the disturbing and predatory behavior of Mr. Combs, and praised Cassie's courage for speaking up. And courage is right. Do you know how much strength it takes to stand up to someone with Diddy's pull in the industry? Just so we clear on the timeline, Cassie met Diddy back in 2005 when she was just 19 years old, and he was pushing 40 at 37. Let that age gap marinate for a sec. She signed with his label, Bad Boy Records, and their relationship started around 2007. Already the power dynamic was mad twisted. He was her boss, a major industry guru, and old enough to be her uncle. That's like playing basketball against someone who owns the court, the ball, and is the referee. Make it make sense. Their relationship lasted until 2018, and according to Cassie's lawsuit, all through that time she endured physical beatings, emotional abuse, and was even forced to participate in what Diddy called freak-offs, which were basically adult sleepovers that Cassie ain't want no parts of, but was pressured into joining. I'm trying to keep this family friendly for the youngins watching, but just know that these gatherings involve substances, other people, and situations where Cassie felt violated and straight up disrespected. Diddy would allegedly LM these events and later use the recordings to control her moves. That ain't a relationship, that's psychological warfare on gang. After the hotel incident, Cassie claimed Diddy paid $50,000 to get the security footage from the hotel. Think about that. This man knew he messed up so bad he was ready to drop a whole year of college tuition just to hide the evidence. That ain't the move of someone who made a mistake. That's somebody who knows exactly what they did and wants to cover it up. And you know what's the craziest part? Before the video dropped, back in December 2023, Diddy was in these streets calling all the allegations sickening and claiming they were made by individuals looking for a quick payday. He said, "Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged." Well. How the turntables. Nothing like video evidence to expose a cap real quick. But this hotel incident was just the appetizer, y'all. The abuse Cassie allegedly went through was systematic and horrifying. Her lawsuit detailed that in January 2009, after learning she had spoken to another manager, Diddy beat her so badly that she had to hide in a hotel for a whole week. In 2015, at a Las Vegas after party, he reportedly beat her again, leaving her with 2 black eyes, a busted lip, and a welt, then forced her to wear makeup to hide the injuries like it was just another day at the office. Let me put this in perspective. This ain't just a case of a celebrity being problematic or having a bad day. This is about someone allegedly using their fame, money, and industry connections to abuse, control, and silence another human being for over a decade. That ain't entertainment gossip. That's criminal behavior, full stop. As we've seen with this footage, Cassie wasn't capping. She wasn't doing too much. If anything, what we're in and out through this trial is that she might have only told us a fraction of what she actually went through. And speaking of the trial, let's talk about what's popping now in May 2025. Diddy's facing some serious charges, including racketeering, conspiracy, tracking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. If convicted on all counts, he could be looking at 15 years to life. That's a long time to think about your actions, no matter how many millions you got in the bank. Cassie takes the stand.
She is out in New York.
That's her in New York today, and looking. We knew she was pregnant, and we hadn't seen her since really February when they announced that she was pregnant. But she seems pretty far along, and she will be testifying next week, taking the stand. We think that she'll testify next week, but that is going to have some impact, one hell of an impact on the jury.
That's right. Cassie is pregnant while testifying against her abuser. This queen is in her 3rd trimester, carrying a whole baby in her belly, and she's still pulling up to make sure justice is served. If that ain't strength, I don't know what is. On my mama. As TMZ Live pointed out, her appearance in court makes a powerful statement.
I've talked about before how appearance makes a difference in cases. How Diddy's appearance, wearing a sweater, having gray hair and glasses and whatnot, that it's all designed for something. Well, optics make a difference in court. And when you think about what this case is about, this is about the defense saying that not only did Diddy lead a swingers lifestyle, but so did Cassie. And that this was all consensual, and that they are saying there is no fraud, coercion, anything like that. When you look at Cassie getting on the stand, the jury is going to have to reconcile that image with the description or the picture that the defense is painting.
See, Diddy's whole defense strategy is trying to claim that everything that went down between them was consensual, that Cassie was out here willingly participating in what they're calling a swingers lifestyle. But as one TMZ commentator said, it's going to be mad difficult for the jury to believe that when they're looking at a pregnant Cassie who's already a mother to 2 other children. Cassie started testifying on May 13th, 2025, and kept it real for 4 straight days until May 16th. And y'all, she brought the heat. She described their relationship as marked by fear, control, and violence from day one, basically. According to her testimony, their relationship started professional when she signed with Bad Boy Records in 2006, but quickly got personal. She described feeling confused when Diddy kissed her on her 21st birthday, setting the tone for a relationship where he called all the shots while she was still young and green to the industry. One of the most disturbing parts of Cassie's testimony was about those so-called freakos, which were basically adult situations where Cassie was forced to participate with other people while Diddy watched and recorded. Now, I know we're trying to keep this family friendly for the shorties watching, so I'll just say this. Imagine being forced to do things you don't want to do, with people you don't want to be with, all while someone films you and later uses that footage to keep you in check. That's psychological terrorism, no cap. Cassie tested that these events made her feel worthless, and that she felt compelled to participate to avoid getting put hands on. That's not consent, that's coercion. There's a whole difference between choosing something freely and choosing something because you're scared of what'll happen if you say no. She also detailed numerous beatings, including that 2016 Intercontinental Hotel incident we saw on the surveillance footage. Imagine having to describe being jumped while the whole courtroom watches the video evidence of it happening. The trauma of reliving that moment must have been heavy on her spirit, but Cassie stayed strong, even when breaking down in tears while discussing her 2023 rehab and trauma therapy, where she experienced flashbacks and even had idle thoughts. This is the real aftermath of abuse that doesn't get talked about enough. The long-lasting mental effects that stay with victims long after the physical bruises have faded. Cassie also exposed how Diddy controlled her career, claiming he never released hundreds of songs she recorded and used those freako videos as blackmail. That's like holding someone's entire future hostage, their passion, their art, their bread and butter. Imagine grinding in the studio just to have your work locked in the vault because someone wants to keep you under their thumb. She even recounted a scary incident where Diddy and a security guard strapped up to confront rival Suge Knight, leaving her tearing. This woman was surrounded by violence and intimidation at every turn. Now, y'all might be wondering how Diddy's legal team tried to counter Cassie's powerful testimony. Well, they attempted to discredit her by showing lovey-dovey text messages and suggesting her participation in these gatherings was voluntary. They questioned her substance use and brought up a 2013 bars GHT to challenge her credibility. But let me tell you why that's some weak sauce. Toxic relationships are complicated AF. Victims often stay with their abusers for many reasons: fear, financial dependence, emotional manipulation, or because they've been gaslit into thinking what's happening to them is normal or their fault. Just because someone sends a heart emoji text doesn't mean they're not getting put through it behind closed doors. The defense also tried to argue that jealousy or behavior influenced by substances may have contributed to Diddy's actions. That's like saying, "I'm sorry I stole your car, but I was really jealous of your rims." Nah, that don't fly in traffic court, and it shouldn't fly here either. And guess what? Diddy was struggling as Cassie's testimony continued. Multiple courtroom sources said he was looking mad uncomfortable, dodge-jetting, sweating through his designer tee, and at one point even seemed to have a straight-up panic attack during a particularly damning part of Cassie's testimony. He was seen gasping for air, loosening his tie, and his legal team had to request a quick break. That's what guilt looks like, folks. When you're faced with the truth of your actions and there's nowhere to hide, your body often betrays you. All that money, all that power, all those connections can't save you from your own conscience when it now catches up to you. To make matters worse for Diddy, Cassie wasn't the only one testifying against him. Dawn Richard, another witness, testified on May 16, 2025, about witnessing Diddy attack Cassie in 2009 at his Los Angeles crib. She described a brutal beating over some eggs, of all things, and Diddy dragging Cassie upstairs. She also spilled that Diddy made threats, warning that people who say something can end up missing. Let that sink in. This man allegedly threatened people with disappearing if they spoke up about what they saw. Another witness, Yassine Binda, a Homeland Security agent, testified about Diddy's arrest, detailing items found at his home, including baby oil, lubricants, various substances, and $9,000 in cash, which prosecutors connected to the alleged freakos and substance use. The evidence is stacking up, and it's looking real bad for Mr. Bad Boy Entertainment. What's really wild about this case is how long Cassie put up with this treatment. According to court documents, the relationship lasted from around 2007 to 2018. That's 11 whole years. During that time, Cassie became heavily dependent on opiates, seeking professional help 6 times. She testified that she last used these substances in 2022 and no longer uses them. The way addiction often gets tangled up with abuse situations is another layer of this tragic story. The abuse also messed up Cassie's social life. Her friendship with a best friend of 17 years ended in 2018 after an altercation involving Diddy allegedly hitting her friend with a wooden hanger. Isolation is a classic move of abusers, cutting victims from their day ones to make them more dependent and less likely to leave. Now let's talk about another key aspect of this case, the bag. During her testimony, Cassie confirmed that she settled her 2023 civil lawsuit against Diddy for $20 million. Diddy's defense team tried to use this to suggest she was just chasing a check, but let's keep it a stat. $20 million doesn't erase trauma. It doesn't give you back the years you lost. It doesn't heal your mental and emotional scars. Besides, as prosecutors pointed out, revealing the settlement was part of a strategy to draw the sting and get ahead of defense attacks. It's like saying, yeah, I got this money, and I'm still here testifying because this is about justice, not a cash grab. What's also important to understand is that Cassie's lawsuit was just the beginning. Since November 2023, over 70 sexual assault lawsuits have been led against Diddy, amplifying the scale of allegations and public scrutiny. This isn't just about one relationship gone wrong. This is potentially about a pattern of behavior affecting dozens of victims. In March 2024, the Department of Homeland Security raided Diddy's cribs in California and Florida, seizing substances and over 1,000 bottles of baby oil allegedly used for freakos as part of a human tracking investigation. That's not normal, y'all. Nobody needs 1,000 bottles of baby oil unless you opening a daycare center or something. One of the most powerful moments during Cassie's testimony came when she was asked why she stayed with Diddy for so long despite the abuse. She explained that she was confused about their relationship, that Diddy had isolated her from friends and family, and that she was scared of what would happen if she bounced. She described feeling trapped in a cycle of abuse that was hard to break free from. This is something many abuse survivors can relate to: the confusion, the fear, the self-doubt, and the complex emotions that keep victims tied to their abusers. It's not as simple as just leaving. There There are psychological chains that can be just as strong as physical ones. You heard me? And let's not forget the power dynamic at play here. Diddy wasn't just Cassie's boo. He was her boss, a major guru in the music industry who could make or break her career. He was 18 years older than her when they met, with way more experience, connections, and resources. That kind of imbalance creates a situation where true consent becomes questionable at best. You know what's wild? Throughout all of this intense testimony, Cassie remained composed, emphasizing the fear and coercion she experienced, and maintained that her testimony was about seeking justice rather than financial gain. Even under aggressive cross-examination, she stuck to her story and didn't let the defense shake her. That's the kind of resilience that can only come from someone telling their truth. Lies fold under pressure, but truth stands tall, no matter how hard someone tries to break it down. Cassie's testimony has already made a significant impact, encouraging other alleged victims to speak out and shining a light on abuse that had been hidden for too long. The truth is still unfolding, and justice is watching. The empire crumbles. First though, let's be clear about what Diddy's facing here. This ain't some minor charge that'll end with community service and an Instagram apology tour. Homie is looking at federal charges of racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. If convicted on all counts, he could be sentenced to anywhere from 15 years to life in prison. Let that marinate for a minute. The man who built Bad Boy Entertainment, who discovered artists like Biggie, who created his own clothing line and alcohol brands, could potentially spend the rest of his life behind bars. That's like going from the penthouse to the big house in one fell swoop, from making hits to making license plates real quick. And his defense team knows they're getting an uphill battle. Let's check out what TMZ said about their strategy.
And it will be difficult for Diddy's attorney, whoever's doing the cross-examining, to push her. You can't, you know what I mean? Like, you can't go back against her. You can't refute things she's saying and be aggressive with her.
They in a tight spot, for real. How you gonna aggressively cross-examine a pregnant woman who's bravely sharing her trauma? You can't, at least not without looking like a complete villain to the jury. But here's what's truly damning for Diddy. It's not just Cassie anymore. Remember, since November 2023, over 70 assault lawsuits have been led against him. 70. That's not just a salty ex or someone trying to secure a bag. That's a pattern of behavior that spans decades. These lawsuits include allegations from individuals like Sarah Rivers and anonymous accusers, some related to Diddy's MTV reality series Making the Band. Remember that show? It was supposed to be a platform for aspiring artists to get their big break. But according to these allegations, it may have been something much darker behind the scenes. That's like thinking you're going to chef school, but ending up on Chopped with no ingredients. Now let's talk about the impact this is having on Diddy's empire. Since these allegations surfaced, Diddy's business ventures have taken massive hits. Major brands have distanced themselves. His alcohol partnerships with Kirok and DeLeon have been questioned, and his clothing line, Sean John, has seen declining sales. It's like watching a skyscraper collapse floor by floor, brick by brick. His reputation in the music industry, once golden, is now tarnished beyond repair. Artists who once begged to work with him are now silent or openly critical. Former associates are distancing themselves, careful not to get caught in the fallout. It's fascinating how quickly people scatter when someone powerful falls. That's like rats jumping on a sinking ship. Everybody looking out for themselves when the tide turns. And what about his legacy? Diddy was once seen as a pioneer in hip-hop entrepreneurship, someone who transcended music to build a business empire. He inspired countless artists to think beyond record sales and diversify their income streams. But now, his name is becoming synonymous with abuse, exploitation, and manipulation. His achievements are being overshadowed by his alleged crimes. His whole can't stop, won't stop motto got a new meaning now. Can't stop, won't stop facing consequences. This is what happens when power goes unchecked for too long. Diddy operated in an industry where he was revered, where few dared to challenge him, where his money and influence could solve most problems. But some things, like surveillance video and dozens of accusers with similar stories, can't be bought or intimidated into silence. What's truly sad is thinking about the victims who sued in silence for years because they didn't think anyone would believe them or feared retaliation. How many careers were damaged or destroyed? How many lives were altered by trauma? The ripple effects of abuse extend far beyond the immediate victims. Let's not forget that Cassie is just one of many women who have come forward. Each one deserves to be heard, to have their experiences acknowledged, and to see justice served. It took incredible courage for all of them to speak out against someone as powerful as Diddy, and that's what makes this case so important. It's not just about one man facing consequences for his actions. It's about challenging a culture that has allowed powerful men to behave this way for far too long. It's about saying that no one, regardless of their wealth or status, is above the law or exempt from basic human decency. The music industry has a long history of enabling and even celebrating bad behavior, particularly when it comes to how women are treated. From R. Kelly to Russell Simmons to now Diddy, we've seen a pattern of powerful powerful men using their position to exploit and abuse. But that culture is slowly changing, thanks in large part to brave survivors who refuse to stay silent. That's real talk. This case has broader implications for how we think about consent, power dynamics, and accountability. When there's a significant imbalance of power, whether due to age, professional position, or celebrity status, can consent ever truly be freely given? And how do we hold people accountable when they've used their power to create systems of silence and intimidation? As Cassie's testimony revealed, the trauma of abuse doesn't end when the relationship does. She spoke about her struggles with substance dependency, seeking professional help multiple times, and still dealing with the psychological aftermath years later. Healing from abuse is a long, non-linear process, and it's important to recognize that. It ain't like putting a Band-Aid on a cut. It's more like recovering from major surgery. The trial is expected to last about 2 months, according to the Washington Post, with more witnesses set to testify. As of May 19, 2025, Dawn Richard is scheduled to return to court, continuing her testimony about what she witnessed during Diddy and Cassie's relationship. But as Cassie's testimony continued, and that hotel video was shown to the jury, witnesses described him becoming increasingly agitated. He was seen jetting, sweating through his designer tee, loosening his tie, and at one point appeared to have a full-on panic attack, struggling to breathe and requiring a brief recess. That's the reaction of a man who knows he's caught, y'all. When the evidence is so overwhelming that even your designer suit can't contain your anxiety, it's a wrap. Game over. Thanks for playing. Another interesting aspect of this case is how it connects to broader patterns in Diddy's life. Kid Cudi con-rhymed that Diddy made threats against him because of his interest in Cassie, and that his car actually did explode, just as Cassie tested. That's some straight-up movie villain type behavior. The details Cassie laid out about their relationship paint a deeply disturbing picture of control and manipulation. She tested that Diddy controlled where she lived, tracked her every move, and isolated her from her friends and family. He allegedly sabotaged her music career too, sitting on hundreds of songs she recorded, never letting them see the light of day. It didn't stop there. Cassie said he would use recordings from the so-called freakos as blackmail, forcing her into silence. On top of that, she claimed he made her get substances for him, all while expecting unwavering loyalty, even as he ran around doing whatever he wanted with other women. This isn't just abuse, it's a systematic campaign to break someone down and make them completely dependent. It's like psychological warfare designed to strip away a person's independence, self-worth, and ability to lead. That's some next-level toxic behavior. Let's also address a common question people have. Why did she stay for so long if it was that bad? This is a question that shows a lack of understanding about the complex dynamics of abusive relationships. Cassie explained in her testimony that she was confused about their relationship, that she had been isolated from her support system, and that she genuinely feared what would happen if she tried to leave. Add to that the fact that Diddy controlled her career, her living situation, and had allegedly threatened people close to her. And you start to understand why leaving wasn't as simple as walking out the door. That's like asking why someone doesn't just walk away from a lion. When the lion controls your food, shelter, and has shown it will attack if provoked, you move very, very carefully. The defense has tried to paint Cassie as someone who is naturally motivated, pointing to the $20 million settlement. But during her testimony, Cassie delivered a powerful response when asked about the money, saying she would give it all back if it meant undoing the trauma of the freakos and abuse. As this trial continues to unfold, there will be more testimonies, more evidence, and potentially more shocking revelations. But regardless of the outcome, Cassie has already won in many ways by reclaiming her voice and her story. She's no longer denned by her relationship with Diddy. She's denned by her courage, her resilience, and her determination to seek justice, not just for herself, but for others who have been silenced. If you enjoyed watching this video, then go ahead and click on any of the cards on your screen for more.
And he knows better than to be talking about the things that he does with Big Brother Puff on national television.
For years, Sean Diddy Combs has been keeping folks who witnessed his alleged dirt silent, using straight-up threats and fear to make sure they stay quiet. But now the streets are talking. Months after that jaw-dropping footage went viral, Diddy's trial just took a wild left turn. Word on the street is Cassie's own brother is stepping up to testify, and what he's ready to reveal might blow the lid off everything Diddy tried to keep hidden during Cassie's decade under his control. This might just be the testimony that flips the whole case. Let's get into it. The case that got the whole hood talking. In the heart of Manhattan, a trial is popping off that could forever change the game in the entertainment industry. Sean Diddy Combs, once the top dog in hip-hop who went from rapper to straight boss, now finds himself caught up in what prosecutors are calling a criminal enterprise spanning decades. As jury selection kicked off on May 5th, 2025, with opening statements set for May 12th, everyone's glued to a case that's about to expose all the skeletons in the closet where celebrity and power meet. The charges against Combs are mad serious. trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. These allegations didn't just pop up overnight, but represent years of whispers that finally caught fire after one crucial lawsuit dropped in November 2023. That lawsuit came from R&B singer Cassandra "Cassie" Ventura, whose decade-long relationship with Combs is now center stage in a prosecution that could potentially have the music mogul locked up for life. What makes this case extra spicy isn't just who's on trial, but the straight-up receipts that have already hit the streets. In May 2024, everybody was shocked when surveillance footage leaked showing Combs physically assaulting Ventura in a Los Angeles hotel hallway back in 2016. The video, which shows Combs violently pressing Ventura, grabbing her, throwing her to the ground, kicking her while she's down, and dragging her back to a hotel room, had social media on fire and the culture in shambles. This damning evidence will be shown to the jury and stands as visual proof of what prosecutors say was a long-standing pattern of abuse, intimidation, and exploitation. Combs' legal troubles came at him fast with his arrest in September 2024, followed by a federal indictment unsealed on September 17, 2024, a superseding indictment filed on January 30, 2025, and more charges piled on in April 2025 have painted an increasingly disturbing picture of alleged systematic abuse spanning nearly a decade from 2009 to 2018. At the center of these allegations are what prosecutors have termed freak-offs, wild sexual performances allegedly directed by Combs involving coerced commercial acts. According to court documents, these events sometimes went on for days, involved excessive drug use to keep victims compliant, and were often recorded without consent. As U.S. Attorney Damian Williams put it in the realest terms,
Combs allegedly planned and controlled the performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time.
The indictment details not only these organized events, but also allegations of physical violence, including hitting, choking, pushing, and in one instance, dangling a victim over an apartment balcony. Combs allegedly used his clout and influence to maintain control through various forms of coercion, from threatening careers to straight-up blackmail. What started with Ventura's lawsuit has turned into an avalanche, with Combs now facing over 70 sexual assault lawsuits alleging decades of abuse. The sheer number of accusations and how graphic they are have even the most seasoned observers of celebrity drama saying how wild everything is. Among these accusers are both women and men, some who were allegedly minors when it all went down. The scale of these allegations points to something much bigger than a few isolated incidents. They suggest what prosecutors describe as a systematic operation enabled by Combs' major bag, power, and connections in the entertainment industry. The indictment alleges that Combs ran a criminal enterprise through his multimedia empire, including Bad Boy Entertainment to facilitate trafficking and other illegal activities. What makes this case particularly significant is that Cassie Ventura, identified as Victim 1 in the indictment, is expected to testify under her government name. Ventura's civil lawsuit, which accused Combs of rape, trafficking, and physical abuse over their decade-long relationship that began when she was just 19 and signed to his Bad Boy Records label, was settled out of court the day after it dropped. However, the damage was done. Her courage in stepping up appears to have opened the floodgates for dozens of other accusers and prompted the federal investigation that led to Combs getting booked. As we dig deeper into this case, we gotta remember that behind the headlines are real people who claim to have suffered tremendous trauma. The trial, expected to run for months, will bring testimony from at least 4 accusers, with Ventura as the only one identified to the public so far. One key witness might be Dawn Richard, a former member of Combs' musical groups Danity Kane and Diddy Dirty Money, who filed a lawsuit claiming she witnessed Combs put hands on Ventura. The legal proceedings have already got social media going crazy, with platforms like X blowing up with speculation, memes, and debates about the case. A whole lot of people showed support for Cassie, while others questioned how someone could allegedly move like this for decades without consequences. To answer this, theories are everywhere online. Some comments suggest Combs' deep connections with powerful people might even help him beat the case. Names like Christina Coram, Combs' former chief of staff, have come up in civil suits for allegedly helping cover up his actions, though she hasn't faced criminal charges. The trial has also raised questions about who else might be caught up in this web of alleged misconduct. Prosecutors have provided jurors with a list of celebrities' names that might come up during proceedings, including Usher, Justin Bieber, and Jay-Z, though no direct involvement has been confirmed for these individuals. Just the mention of these names with the case has fueled wild speculation online, though it's important to remember that being on such a list doesn't mean they did anything wrong. Speaking of Justin Bieber, his 2022 interview with Zane Lowe has resurfaced with all this Diddy drama, where he spoke about the trauma of being young in the music industry.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second.
This case is bigger than just one celebrity trial. It's become a check on power dynamics in the entertainment industry and how money and influence can potentially shield individuals from being held accountable. As we continue to follow these proceedings, it's essential to approach the subject with the seriousness it deserves, recognizing the profound suffering alleged by the accusers, while also respecting the legal process that presumes innocence until proven guilty. The Ventura testimony. As Sean Diddy Combs' trial pops off in Manhattan, all eyes been locked on Cassie Ventura, tagged as Victim 1 in the federal indictment, and the main chick in the case against the hip-hop mogul. Her move to drop that lawsuit in November 2023 is what finally got the feds on Diddy's trail, leading to his arrest and these court proceedings everybody talking about. But behind all the headlines and tweets is a deeper story, one about a family that might be torn apart by years of alleged abuse, and now caught up in this pursuit of justice. Born Cassandra Elizabeth Ventura on August 26, 1986, in New London, Connecticut, Cassie comes from a mixed heritage, feel me? The streets know she was born to a Filipino pops and a mama with African-American, Mexican, and West Indian roots. While Shorty built her own lane as a singer, model, and actress, her family business stayed on the low. That is, until these explosive allegations against Diddy dragged not just her, but her whole fam into a spotlight they never asked for. The situation between Cassie and Diddy kicked off when she was just 19 and fresh ink on his Bad Boy Records contract. What followed, according to her paperwork, was a whole decade of control, manipulation, and straight-up abuse. The power dynamic was mad obvious from the jump, a teenage rookie to the game getting linked with one of music's biggest ballers, nearly 2 decades older than her. This imbalance would supposedly be used against her repeatedly as the years went by. That surveillance footage from 2016 showing Diddy putting hands on Cassie in a hotel hallway is straight receipts of at least one time when that abuse she talked about actually went down. This video shows Diddy grabbing Cassie by the neck, throwing her to the floor, kicking her while she's down bad, and dragging her back to a hotel room. These receipts back up everything in her lawsuit, and the jury's gonna see all of it during the trial. The impact of Diddy's alleged abuse and all the legal drama that followed on Cassie's family ain't been widely documented, but it don't take a genius to imagine how deep it would cut parents, siblings, and other loved ones. Finding out your daughter or sister allegedly caught hands for years would mess up any family for real. Then add the fact that it's all over social media and the blogs, involving one of the industry's biggest shot callers, and the stress becomes crazy heavy. Word on the street is that family members might step to the stand to speak on what they witnessed or knew about what was happening between Cassie and Diddy. The trauma from abuse hardly ever just hits the main victim. Family members often catch what the head shrinkers call secondary trauma, that emotional damage from hearing about or seeing the traumatic experiences happening to someone you love. For Cassie's people, finding out about the alleged years of abuse and then possibly getting pulled into a high-profile federal case would no doubt take a serious toll on the mental. Adding another layer to this whole situation is how Diddy settled Cassie's civil lawsuit just one day after she filed it. While nobody knows what the bag looked like, how quick he settled had everybody side-eyeing, thinking Diddy was trying to keep the case from hitting discovery, where even more dirt might have come to light. Despite the settlement, the lawsuit did what it was probably supposed to do: put the allegations on Front Street and give other victims the courage to speak their truth. The federal indictment against Diddy claims he used all types of methods to control his victims, including violence, threats, and career leverage. In Cassie's situation, what started as a professional relationship quickly got personal, making it even harder for her to bounce from the situation. The federal case against Diddy includes allegations that he orchestrated what he called freak-offs, wild, sexual performances that he allegedly arranged, directed, and recorded, often without victims knowing they were being taped.
You're gonna hear about my party, they're gonna be shutting them down, they're gonna probably be arresting me, doing all types of crazy things just because we wanna have a good time.
Prosecutors say these events involved handing out narcotics, including K, X, and GHB, to keep victims in line and compliant, plus the use of physical violence, threats, and blackmail to make sure everybody stayed quiet.
The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant.
When the feds ran up in Diddy's Los Angeles and Miami cribs in March 2024, they seized mad evidence allegedly connected to these events, including over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lube, drugs, and electronic devices with videos of the freak-offs. The indictment also breaks down how Diddy's crew supposedly handled all the logistics, booking hotel suites, arranging travel, and providing IV fluids to victims to recover from the physical toll of these events. As the trial keeps moving, we expect to hear Cassie herself take the stand, possibly shedding light, not just on her own experiences, but on how the alleged abuse messed with her relationships with family and loved ones. While we don't have confirmed info about exactly what role her family members might play in the trial, their potential involvement shows how abuse affects way more people than just the direct victim. The courage it takes for any survivor of abuse to step up is major facts, especially when the alleged abuser is someone with the bag, power, and connections, like Diddy. For Cassie and potentially her fam, the decision to participate in this federal case represents not just fighting for personal justice, but potentially contributing to a bigger wake-up call within an industry that's been allowing power imbalances and alleged exploitation for way too long. The industry implications: who knew what and when? As Diddy's trial goes down in Manhattan, mad shockwaves are hitting the entertainment game. Beyond the specific charges against Puff lies a more real question. How could someone allegedly run these streets for decades without getting caught up? This question has the internet buzzing about who might have been in the cut knowing what was good, whether other industry folks were riding shotgun, and why it took so long for these accusations to finally land him in the system. The indictment claims Diddy was running a whole operation through his empire, including Bad Boy Entertainment, to facilitate trafficking and other illegal moves. This angle suggests the alleged dirt wasn't just one man's hustle, but potentially involved a network of yes men and enablers. For real, prosecutors say Diddy's deep connections in the industry helped keep his name clean in these streets, which explains why he stayed eating without consequences. Several key players have been named as potentially having hands in this alleged crew. Christina Coram, Puff's former right hand, has been called out in at least 3 civil suits for allegedly helping keep his business on the low, though she hasn't caught any charges yet. The indictment also claims Diddy's team was helping facilitate his dirt, and some caught fade from his rage.
He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff.
The DA hit the jury with a list of big names that might pop up during the trial, including Usher, Justin Bieber, and Jay-Z, though nobody's saying these cats were directly involved. Just seeing these names on the list has social media going crazy, but keep it a buck. Being on the list doesn't mean they were doing anything shady. These names could come up for completely innocent reasons. The Bieber connection has been getting mad attention after that old footage resurfaced showing Diddy checking Bieber about speaking on their relationship on national TV.
And he knows better than to be talking about the things that he does with Big Brother Puff on national television.
Young Bieber's 2022 interview, where he got in his feelings about the struggle of being a young artist, also had people talking. In that same sit-down, Bieber gets emotional talking about wanting to keep Billie Eilish from going through what he experienced.
I just wanted to be a good example, and it was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they loved me and just turn their back on you in a second.
When discussing Eilish, he added,
I just want to protect her, I don't want her to go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody.
While Bieber ain't specifically calling out Diddy in this interview, his reaction when talking about what young artists face has the streets talking about his experiences. But let's keep it 100. Bieber isn't focused on the allegations against Diddy and is instead on his family grind. The case has also got people questioning how the music industry let this slide. How could someone with Diddy's clout allegedly move like this for so long without consequences? Several theories are floating around the block to explain this apparent immunity, though we gotta approach these with side-eye since they're mostly just internet talk. One theory suggests that Diddy had the receipts on big-time players, politicians, celebrities, and industry execs getting loose at his functions. These tapes supposedly gave him leverage to stay out of cuffs, since exposing them could bring down powerful folks. This theory caught fire when Gene Deal, Diddy's former security, spilled tea on a podcast, saying Diddy had footage of politicians, princes, and preachers at his gatherings.
Do you think it's any celebrities on them tapes?
Bro, he gave celebrity parties. So what you think? I think they're not telling the whole truth.
Another theory claims Diddy was untouchable because of his political connects and his pull in getting voters to the polls. Former NBA baller Kwame Brown suggested that Puff's ties to politicians and his role in mobilizing the vote kept him protected for decades, but like the other talk, this is just speculation without solid proof. What seems clear, no cap, is that Diddy's bread, power, and industry connections created a situation where alleged victims felt they couldn't speak up. The indictment breaks down how Diddy allegedly controlled victims with paper, drugs, and threats to their careers, creating an environment of fear. For young artists or industry folks depending on Diddy for their come-up, the risk of speaking out would have been too real. The case against Puff has also put the spotlight on a culture of silence in the entertainment world. Ray J claimed in a doc that high-profile celebrities were paying off victims to keep quiet, suggesting a system designed to shield the powerful at the expense of victims. Speaking on this issue, he stated,
"But for the regular world, somebody has the truth, somebody pays you to keep it quiet, and hopefully that money that you got paid secures your happiness while you watch the lie continue to succeed."
Beyond the specific allegations against Diddy, the case raises deep questions about power, accountability, and the structures that potentially let abuse go unchecked in the entertainment game. If the allegations against Diddy turn out to be facts, they would suggest not just one man's wrongdoing, but a systematic failure to protect vulnerable individuals from exploitation. The indictment further alleges that Diddy tried to influence witnesses by having family members reach out to victims and create favorable stories. He also reportedly orchestrated a social media video featuring his kids to sway potential jurors, showing he was still trying to leverage relationships and influence to duck accountability. Another disturbing aspect involves allegations against Christian King Combs, Diddy's son, who was reported to have been groomed by his father. In April 2024, Grace O'Markay, a 25-year-old woman who worked as a steward on a luxury yacht chartered by the Combs family, filed a lawsuit claiming that Christian sexually assaulted her during a family trip in late 2022. The lawsuit also accuses Christian of riding with his father in a broader pattern of misconduct. While these allegations still need to be proven in court, they suggest the possibility of a family dynamic that normalized or enabled concerning behavior. Another lawsuit by April Lampro alleged battery and sexual assault. A particularly disturbing claim involves a 13-year-old girl who alleges she was assaulted at an after-party following the 2000 Video Music Awards by Jay-Z and Diddy. The scope and seriousness of these allegations suggest not just isolated incidents, but potentially a systematic pattern of abuse over many years. As the trial keeps rolling, we might learn more about who in the industry knew what was good and whether anyone tried to check the situation. The testimony of people like Dawn Richard, who filed a lawsuit claiming she witnessed Diddy put hands on Ventura, could be particularly revealing. As a former member of Diddy's musical groups, Richard was in the inner circle and might shed light on what others might have known or seen. The bigger implications of this case for the entertainment industry are major. If someone with Diddy's profile could allegedly move like this for decades without consequences, what does that say about industry structures and power dynamics? What responsibility do labels, agencies, and other industry entities have in making sure artists and employees stay safe? And what changes might be necessary to prevent similar situations from popping off in the future? These questions go beyond the specific charges against Diddy to touch on fundamental issues of power, accountability, and ethics within the entertainment industry. As the trial unfolds, it may force not just a legal reckoning for one individual, but a moral and ethical reckoning for an entire industry. The defense strategy Diddy's legal team is running offers some insight into how these allegations have been framed and contested. Diddy's attorneys, led by Mark Agnifilo, argue that the sexual activities described were consensual and that Diddy is being unfairly targeted. They've tried unsuccessfully to keep out the 2016 video of Diddy assaulting Cassie Ventura and have raised concerns about juror bias due to media coverage. This approach, focusing on consent and trying to minimize or contextualize documented instances of violence, reflects a broader pattern often seen in cases involving powerful figures accused of abuse. It puts the burden on alleged victims to prove not just that events went down, but that they went down without consent and under pressure. As we continue to follow this case, it's essential to keep it a buck with both critical thinking and empathy. The allegations against Diddy are serious and, if proven, represent not just individual wrongdoing, but potentially a systemic failure to protect vulnerable individuals from exploitation. At the same time, our legal system presumes innocence until guilt is proven, What seems clear, though, is that regardless of the outcome of this specific case, the entertainment industry is facing a moment of truth. The questions raised about power, accountability, who knew what and when, extend far beyond one individual to touch on fundamental issues of ethics, responsibility, and the structures that potentially enable abuse. As the trial unfolds in Manhattan, with opening statements scheduled for May 12, 2025, the world will be watching not just for the verdict, but for what it reveals about the darker corners of an industry that has for too long operated with limited transparency and accountability. The testimony of key witnesses, including Cassie Ventura herself, may prove crucial not just in determining Diddy's legal fate, but in forcing a broader conversation about power, abuse, and responsibility in the entertainment industry. If you enjoyed this video, click on any of the cards on your screen for similar content.